So, given what's happening at the moment in the tech industry, I mean, with the layoffs and all of that is happening, what would your sort of like advice or for
Oh,
those, because at times these board members or the CEOs have to make those really tough decisions, and some of those decisions were just the way those decisions were done were just not the great way of doing it. So, what is your take on this scenario?
uh, well, you know, corporate America, public companies act very different
Yeah.
than private companies, depending on if they're owned by, a PE firm or not. But
Mhm.
okay, so to answer that question, you've got companies that are just going to be a meat grinder. It's always numbers. It's numbers, 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 and those CEOs and companies are forced to cut costs. Eventually, the board and the numbers don't add up, and it's done. How they do it is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, so my way for CEOs or leaders in that kind of area is, oh wow, that's hard. You're
Mhm.
the best thing you can do for people is treat them well, treat
Correct.
them kindly. When
Mhm.
somebody loses a job, it is traumatic. I've been through my share of downsizes. It stinks. You
Yeah.
always have to look inside. Did you do something wrong? I mean, how hard is it going to be to get a job? There's financial pressure. It's one of the top 10 most stressful things.
Yeah.
If you treat people like they're humans, more like they're
Mhm.
humans,
Mhm.
it goes a long way. I've I was let go once
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
the boss and the HR, and I basically used technology to replace myself in a job, and I was supposed to go into another part of the business, and then COVID and blah blah blah. But the guy got on the phone call with HR for 1 minute and says, "Hey Adam, today's your last day. I'll talk to you later." Boop, there's HR, and I was like,
Oh, okay.
I thought you were a better human than that, man. I was like, I get the
Mhm.
risk. I'm not angry. Like, it sucks.
Mhm.
He couldn't even be a human about it. Now, the owner of the company, who was the one that brought me in, I was trying to do a spinoff. He
Mhm.
and I went to lunch together, and he was like, "Yeah, this had to happen," and
Mhm.
it was just totally different. Now, how do you do that in corporate America? Very hard. But in my view, if you are a good human, if you want other people to remember you as
Mhm.
being kind to them and supportive and understanding and loving and encouraged about your future, then treat them well. Communicate with them well. And that's got to start at the top. And if you got a huge organization, it's going to take some money. If you're a family business like what I grew up in,
Mhm.
it's a personal conversation. It's
Mhm.
it's personal. And when leaders do that, it goes better. But the thing I don't like about corporate America is, when you make big decisions that are bad and it can
Mhm.
affect a lot of people's life, the decision you made 2 years ago, that's rough. It's hard for me to be
Mhm.
like, God, that was a bad decision, and now 10,000 people need to cut their job. But that's part of the
Yeah.
the way business works, and the CEO is being
Mhm.
paid to make those tough calls, and you hope that
Yeah.
but in this next AI, the sheer volume of white collar worker change, it's
Mhm.
gonna it's gonna get really bad. It's gonna be
Mhm.
very, very, very stressful. I think this
Mhm.
is the tip of the iceberg, because I've seen, I've done every kind of content there is for sales and marketing.
Mhm.
I can get Gen AI, I can give it one core thing and it'll produce all of it for me. And I mean good
Okay.
quality with all the
Okay.
prompting and the stuff I know how to do, but it'll do it like
Mhm.
this. There's going
Mhm.
to be a lot of sales and marketing people in B2B software, which is where I've lived. They're going to have to change rapidly. And
Mhm.
there's going to be, I think there's going to be, I survived AI t-shirts, I survived the AI era. It's just,
Okay.
I don't know how
Okay.
to, yeah.
So somehow other, so AI is taking away the creative people rather than the blue collar jobs, right?
Well, yeah, the blue collar, but there's like a blue collar within the white collar. There's like a light blue
Oh,
collar.
okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So, I mean, there are books written on this subject. Like, there's this Happiness Advantage. I think you might have read that book. Like, very empirical evidence is okay. This helps. This helps. This helps. This helps. And still, I mean, obviously, you've cited all of these examples. It's still the same way of leadership. Still the same way of operation. So, do you see this
Well,
changing?
I said there's a nuance. There's a focus on habit formation. That's the cultures. This is an important point. The cultures who actually make it work. Like, yes, it is the same thing, but some people still fail at it. So
Okay.
it's making sure people have a habit of doing it. And while those other things are good in the books, I'm saying specifically, gratitude fires neurons, unique neurons, from my voice to yours, and makes you want to be grateful back. It is reciprocal. So when I'm grateful for you and I communicate in that manner, it's reciprocal. The reciprocation just builds bond more and more and more. So that is a very specific light I'm trying to shine on it. But we got to get into the science at that level, right? For somebody to go, oh,
Let's
okay.
just get into the science. Yeah, let's just get into the science of neuropsychology, and just go deeper into this.
So, so like, if I gave you a pair of goggles where you put them on and you couldn't see anything but the energy, all right, you'd have, stuff going down my arms and chakra areas in the stomach. And this is the compassion center, right? Up here, but it's also executive thinking, right? But you'd see these different regions bouncing around, whether I was, had a knee-jerk reaction to something or was in thought. If I was meditating, you'd see the compassion center firing, right? You'd see me as energy, all right? And so in here we've got, it's like roughly 100 billion neurons and 13 trillion synapses, all right? Yeah, so very complex, constantly changing, constantly growing, uses like 30% of the food we give it. It's like this 3-pound thing uses like 30% of the food we give it for energy. Yeah. And so when stimulus comes in, there's a kind of stimulus that you stop and think about, right? And this is psychology, stimulus and response, but it's also neuropsychology. So a stimulus comes in, and before you get to think about it, it's already in processing. You are processing so much more input right now than just my voice and face. If your body needs to send you the signal that your chest hurts, that you need to use the bathroom, you're hearing something, it just has to get your attention enough. And then what? You switch your attention, right? Okay, so as something comes in, there's immediate reactions, right? So your immediate reactions are depending on your habits you form in yourself, are not something you think about. It's you get in the car and you go to work. You don't even think about driving. You just show up, right? Didn't have to think about it. It happened automatically. All right. At the core level of that, it's just a response without thinking. It could be putting your finger on a hot stove. It could be when I go into a meeting, the last thing I want to do is be at a meeting, right? If you are telling yourself that and letting it out every meeting, guess who's not going to like being at meetings? That person. Up at the top, you get to stop and think about it and be like, oh, this thought came in. I'm aware of it now. I'm thinking about it. Is that a behavior and a reaction that I want? So with stimulus and response, it goes from very automated to very self-aware, right? And that's being able to slow down the reaction of the neurons. You're trying to focus your attention on something to stop doing the automated neuron reaction and start doing a new one. It's like the book Tiny Habits or several others, but for me, neuropsychologically, you're training your self-perception to be different, or your perception of the world around you to be different, which is basically what psychologists are doing. So yeah, the science behind this, it's very real, it's very grounded. It's one of those things that if you unpack it, the power is extreme. I mean, we all know the power of habit, right?
Yeah.
Just, hey, put gratitude aside. If somebody just took this concept of how to form a habit of thinking and really applied it with whatever cultural element they've got, they'll have it, but it's got to become a habit. And by being able to press pause on that wrong habit and stop those neurons from an automated response and go, wait, I'm trying to reprogram and I want to think this way or I want to react that way. That's what we did when we learned to ride a bike. That's what we learned to do. Yeah. If you've ever learned to hit a golf club wrong or tennis wrong or badminton wrong or whatever, you have to kind of unlearn what you learn and learn to do it the right way. It's the same thing, but we're just not, we're not treating the human brain like a server. We put all this money into IT, into software, into monitoring, into blah, 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 blah. This is the one that's making all the decisions. Are we really doing our best to monitor this software and how it's operating? Are we running with bugs? Do we have documented features? Seriously, it would be considered a bug in a company that's a grateful organization if we're not really practicing gratitude every day and sharing it with each other.